Fast food has always been about convenience, speed, and comfort, but not even the biggest names are safe in 2025. As consumer tastes evolve and economic pressures mount, several fast food chains are quietly vanishing from the map. Some are shrinking locations, others are going bankrupt, and a few are disappearing altogether. Here are the fast food chains that are disappearing in 2025. 1. Burger King. Burger King has been around since 1954 and for decades was one of the biggest players in fast food. You know that flame-grilled burger taste they brag about? It's been their signature move, going head-to-head with McDonald's and winning over plenty of fans along the way. But even with the Whopper's popularity, Burger King has been closing a bunch of restaurants lately. By the end of 2023, about 400 Burger Kings across the US had shut their doors, and that number kept climbing into 2024 and 2025. Now, instead of seeing shiny new Burger Kings popping up everywhere, the chain's actually shrinking, with fewer than 7,000 locations left nationwide. What's going on? Well, fast food is a pretty crowded world these days, and Burger King has been battling to keep its spot in a super competitive market. Costs for food and workers have gone up, which means it's harder for some of the smaller or less busy Burger Kings to make money. On top of that, a big Burger King franchise owner, the company that runs 57 locations in Florida and Georgia, filed for bankruptcy in early 2025. That's a big deal because when a major franchisee runs into trouble, it can mean some of those restaurants have to close for good. This domino effect makes the chain's map look smaller and smaller, especially in places like Florida, Georgia, Nebraska, and New York, where closures have been hitting hard. Even with all these challenges, Burger King isn't disappearing anytime soon. They are still trying to stay fresh and catch attention with clever marketing moves, like jumping on viral trends and teaming up with pop culture icons. You might have seen those funny ads or social media campaigns. They keep the brand buzzing. But the truth is, some of those locations just aren't pulling in enough customers. So closing them is a way to save money and focus on the stores that are doing better. For fans who still want a Whopper, you might have to drive a little farther or order online. In fact, experts say Burger King might put more energy into digital ordering and delivery instead of building lots of new stores. The fast food world is changing fast, and even giants like Burger King have to keep flipping the script to keep up. 2. Steak and Shake. Steak and Shake is one of those classic American fast food spots that's been around for over 90 years. It's famous for its steak burgers, those juicy, flavorful patties, and of course those hand-dipped milkshakes that almost feel like a dessert and a meal rolled into one. For decades, it was the kind of place you'd go for a casual sit-down meal, maybe after a movie or with friends on a weekend. But the story of Steak and Shake hasn't been all smooth sailing. In fact, it's been quite a roller coaster ride, especially over the last 20 years or so. Back in 2008, Steak and Shake was really struggling. The company had just $1.6 million in cash on hand, but a huge mountain of debt, around $27 million. To put it in perspective, they were losing about $100,000 every single day. That's like burning through a mini fortune just trying to keep the lights on and serve up those famous burgers and shakes. Things looked pretty grim until Sardar Biglari, a businessman with a reputation for shaking things up, stepped in. He called Steak and Shake a vessel taking on water, but said he was ready to bail it out and fix the leaks. By the end of 2009, things were looking up. Instead of losing $100,000 a day, Steak and Shake was making $100,000 a day. That turnaround was pretty impressive, and fans thought the brand was back on track. But, as it often goes with fast food, the good times didn't last forever. Around 2017, Steak and Shake started slipping again. Earnings dropped and losses piled up through 2018 and 2019. The company had to make some tough choices to try to stay alive. One of the biggest changes? After 86 years of traditional sit-down service with friendly servers, Steak and Shake switched to a quick service model. That meant fewer face-to-face chats and more self-service kiosks, where you order your meal on a screen. They also simplified the menu and shortened the hours to save money. While this helped cut costs, it also changed the feel of the restaurant. The old-fashioned charm that made Steak and Shake special started to fade. Over the last few years, the chain lost about 200 locations, shrinking from its peak of 626 restaurants in 2018 to a much smaller footprint. It's been a slow fade, but Steak and Shake is still trying to figure out how to stay relevant in a world filled with fast casual spots and trendy burger joints. Despite all the ups and downs, Steak and Shake has managed to claw its way back to some solid earnings, more than $70 million in total pre-tax operating earnings since it began restructuring. Still, 2024 wasn't exactly a banner year. as they missed some of the goals set by their owners. The brand now faces a tricky balancing act, holding on to its roots as a sit-down, nostalgic burger spot, while also trying to keep up with fast food trends like quick service and digital ordering. The big question is whether loyal customers will miss the old Steak and Shake experience, or if it's time for the brand to fully embrace the new style. Either way, Steak and Shake's story is a reminder that even beloved classics have to change or risk fading away. 3. Subway. Subway used to be the sandwich king. Practically everywhere you looked, there was a Subway store. At its best, Subway had tens of thousands of locations all over the world. You could find one on street corners, inside gas stations, malls, and almost any busy spot. People loved Subway because it promised fresh, made-to-order sandwiches that felt like a healthier fast food choice. You picked your bread, your fillings, and watched them build your sub right in front of you. It felt personal and fresh, and that was Subway's big selling point. But times have changed, and Subway's growth has slowed way down. These days, many customers say the sandwiches don't taste as fresh or flavorful as they used to, which is a problem when fresh is the heart of your brand. Subway tried to fix this by updating their menu with new options and giving their stores a more modern look, but it hasn't been enough to stop the slowdown. One of Subway's biggest problems is the rise of smaller, cooler sandwich shops. These places offer gourmet sandwiches with exciting flavors and trendy atmospheres, making them popular especially with younger people. Compared to that, Subway's menu started feeling a little boring and predictable. Also, meal delivery apps changed how people get their food. If you're waiting a long time for your sandwich to be delivered, by the time it arrives it might be soggy and not very fresh anymore. That's a real turnoff. By 2025, Subway has quietly been closing many of its US locations. Instead of being everywhere, it's focusing on fewer stores that do well and bring in steady customers. So while the famous foot-long sandwich isn't disappearing completely, it's getting harder to find one just around the corner like before. 4. TGI Fridays. TGI Fridays has been a fixture since it opened in Manhattan in 1965. For years, it was the spot for celebrations, after-work drinks, and hearty American fare. But the past few years have been rough. In a bid to cut costs and stem losses, TGI Fridays has been shuttering locations, and by late 2024, 50 U.S. restaurants closed across 12 states. That's a big hit when the chain once boasted nearly 700 locations worldwide. In November 2024, things got even more serious. TGI Fridays filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection while borrowing about $5.9 million to restructure its debts. But financial troubles weren't the only headache. Franchisees grew nervous because the chain has issued about $49.7 million in gift cards that haven't been redeemed, and there's no guarantee those will be honored fully, which is shaking customer confidence. Inflation and labor shortages have squeezed profit margins tight, and changing consumer tastes mean the casual dining model that worked in the past might not be enough now. The company's plan is to keep trimming costs, which likely means more restaurant closures on the horizon. U.S. locations are already down by a quarter compared to previous years. The question now is how TGI Fridays will reinvent itself in a crowded market where casual dining chains face fierce competition from fast casuals and delivery options. For now, fans are watching nervously as their favorite Friday night hangout tries to fight back. 5. Tijuana Flats. Tijuana Flats started in Florida in 1995 as a fresh face in the Tex-Mex scene, offering customizable burritos and tacos with a fun, casual vibe. Back then, the competition wasn't as fierce, with fewer Moe's, Chipotle, or Qdoba spots crowding the market. But as the Tex-Mex boom grew, Tijuana Flats found itself squeezed. By April 2024, the chain had closed 40 locations and was drowning in $19 million of debt. The 2021 menu expansion, which added lots of new items, turned out to be a mistake. It required more equipment and staff, which just wasn't sustainable given the shrinking customer base. Bankruptcy followed in spring 2024, and Tijuana Flats was sold to Flathead's Limited Liability Company in what looked like a last-ditch effort to keep the lights on. Executives remain hopeful, but many industry watchers wonder if the brand's time has passed. The expansion strategy that was supposed to bounce the chain back seems to have backfired, and the chain's survival now depends on how well the new owners can streamline operations and reconnect with fans. 6. Carl's Jr. Carl's Jr. has been a part of the American burger story for a really long time, since the 1940s in fact. For decades, it's been known for its bold, big-flavored burgers and some pretty unforgettable ads. If you ever tried their Western bacon cheeseburger, you know it's a pretty serious sandwich. Thick beef, crispy bacon, melted cheese, and that smoky, grilled flavor. It's the kind of burger that makes you forget about calories for a minute. For years, Carl's Jr. was the go-to spot if you wanted to treat yourself to something filling and tasty, and they didn't hold back on the size or the flavor. But here's the thing. As 2025 kicks in, Carl's Jr. is starting to fade from the fast food spotlight. They are shutting down a bunch of locations across the country. It's like the old Burger King is stepping back a bit. Why? Well, people's tastes are changing. Today, more and more folks are looking for healthier meals or restaurants that feel fresh and modern. Fast casual spots with cool vibes and lighter menus are stealing some of Carl's Jr.'s thunder. Even though Carl's Jr. tried to jump on the plant-based bandwagon with things like Beyond Meat burgers and veggie options, it hasn't been enough to bring in the new crowd. It's hard for a brand that's been around forever to switch gears fast enough. Another thing is, Carl's Jr. built its name on these heavy, beefy burgers. While that's great for fans who love the classic flame-grilled taste, it feels a little old-fashioned for younger people who want lighter or more varied options. And the restaurant's look and feel? Some locations just haven't kept up with the times. In big cities especially, where there are tons of new fast food choices, people want places that look cool and serve food that feels fresh and healthy. Carl's Jr. sometimes feels like it's stuck in the past, and that's made it harder to get new fans. So even though the chain isn't disappearing completely, you will probably find fewer Carl's Jr. restaurants around as 2025 goes on. It's like the brand is caught in a tug-of-war between staying true to its old-school burger roots and trying to keep up with a world that's moving way faster than it used to. 7. BurgerFi. BurgerFi burst onto the scene in 2011 with a promise to offer fresh, natural, and antibiotic-free burgers. The chain quickly became a darling of the fast casual world, gaining fans who wanted a better burger without the fast food guilt. With its eco-friendly image and veggie-friendly options, BurgerFi seemed perfectly positioned to ride the wave of health-conscious consumers. But things took a turn in 2024 when BurgerFi started hemorrhaging money, reporting a jaw-dropping $18.4 million loss in just one quarter. This financial free fall was a big red flag that even with a trendy menu and eco-conscious branding, the chain couldn't keep up with cutthroat competition and operational struggles. By the fall of 2024, BurgerFi had no choice but to file for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection, hoping to reorganize its debts and bounce back. Despite this, the brand closed 19 locations, shaking up its footprint and scaring off some loyal fans. It's worth noting that many of BurgerFi's locations are run by franchisees who were thankfully excluded from the bankruptcy filing, but the brand's overall reputation took a hit. The company cited typical culprits for the downfall: a drop in same-store sales, high employee turnover, and a menu that desperately needed fresh ideas to stand out in a crowded market. BurgerFi's situation highlights how even a chain with the right ingredients, fresh food, natural meats, and a good cause, can stumble if it doesn't execute perfectly. Rapid growth and the pressure to compete with bigger players like Shake Shack and Five Guys made BurgerFi vulnerable. For those who enjoy their all-natural burgers and fries, 2025 might be the last chance to enjoy the brand before it undergoes major changes or disappears from the scene altogether. 8. Boston Market. Boston Market has been the go-to for families craving home-style rotisserie chicken since 1985, but the smell of roasted chicken isn't pulling in crowds like it used to. Once riding high with over 200 locations at its peak, the brand now limps along with just a couple dozen stores left, making it hard to find outside select cities. The chain's heyday came when people wanted a break from cooking, but still craved a wholesome meal, offering generous portions and comfort food without the hassle. However, as grocery store rotisserie chickens got cheaper and fast casual chains like Chipotle and Qdoba offered quicker, customizable meals, Boston Market's charm started to fade. McDonald's owned Boston Market for a while before selling it off to private equity, but the changes didn't help. The chain's price wars led to a drop in food quality, which made loyal customers think twice. Then things got messier when the current owner, Jay Pandya, allegedly ran the company into the ground with some questionable business moves. Lawsuits emerged accusing Pandya of financial mismanagement, including unpaid employee wages and unpaid debts, leaving the future of Boston Market hanging by a thread. It's a tale of a once-loved brand getting swallowed up by bad decisions and a changing market. For those who grew up with Boston Market's mashed potatoes and cornbread, it's sad to see so many locations close and others operating under a cloud of uncertainty. The chain tried to hang on with promotions and updated menus, but the damage seems done. If you want to grab a Boston Market meal soon, better check if your local spot is still open, because the number of restaurants is shrinking fast. 9. Ruby Tuesday. Ruby Tuesday was once a reliable mall dining spot where families and friends gathered for casual American fare and endless salad bars. The chain was everywhere in the 90s and early 2000s, boasting more than 800 locations at one time. But times have changed, and Ruby Tuesday hasn't kept pace. After filing for bankruptcy back in 2020, the brand has been on a slow but steady decline. In 2024 alone, dozens of locations closed quietly, including its last restaurant in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, which marked the end of an era for many longtime fans. The restaurant industry has evolved, and Ruby Tuesday's classic menu and dated vibe just don't resonate like they used to. Increased competition from fresher, faster, and trendier dining options means the brand is losing foot traffic faster than it can renovate or rebrand. Even their salad bar, once a unique selling point, can't compete with healthier and more customizable choices at other chains. Staffing shortages and inflation haven't helped, forcing many locations to shut down without much fanfare. The brand is now a shadow of its former self, clinging to around 200 U.S. locations, with more expected to close as 2025 progresses. For those who grew up eating at Ruby Tuesday, the closures might feel like losing a piece of the dining landscape. It's a reminder that even familiar favorites aren't guaranteed to survive without constant reinvention. 10. Sbarro. Sbarro's giant slices of New York-style pizza were once the perfect mall food court snack, fueling shoppers through marathon spending sprees. But as malls across America have struggled with declining foot traffic, Sbarro's fate has been tied to the slow death of the classic mall experience. The chain has been closing many of its traditional food court locations and trying to pivot to new venues like gas stations and airports. Still, the greasy, oversized pizza slice nostalgia isn't enough to keep the lights on at many of its outlets. Trying to reinvent itself hasn't been easy. The brand has dabbled in delivery, takeout, and smaller format stores, but none have really caught fire. Younger consumers prefer fresh, artisan-style pizzas from places like Blaze Pizza or Mod Pizza, which offer customizable and often healthier options. Sbarro's signature thick-crust, heavy cheese style feels outdated to many. Plus, the mall closures have cut off the chain's main artery of customers, leaving it scrambling to find new revenue streams. Despite efforts to modernize and expand beyond malls, 2025 looks like another tough year for Sbarro. The once popular food court pizza giant is now a much smaller player, hanging on by a thread in places where nostalgia still rules. For fans of those quick slices between shopping trips, time might be running out before Sbarro becomes a footnote in mall history. 11. Outback Steakhouse. Outback Steakhouse, the Aussie-themed steak joint famous for its iconic bloomin' onion, has been quietly but steadily closing locations in 2025. Bloomin' Brands, the company that owns Outback, announced back in early 2024 that they would shut down 41 underperforming restaurants, most of which were Outbacks. These closures hit a bunch of states hard. Think Illinois, Iowa, Michigan, Ohio, Florida, New Hampshire, and Hawaii. In fact, Hawaii and New Hampshire lost every single Outback location they had. While there are still hundreds of Outbacks open across the country, these cuts are a clear sign the chain is trimming down to stay profitable, focusing on places where business is booming and letting go where it's not. What's interesting is that Outback Steakhouse has been around since 1988, and at one point it was a staple for casual dining with that cozy vibe and, of course, those giant crispy onions that make a table feel special. But changing customer habits have played a big role here. People are dining out less and are leaning toward faster, cheaper, or healthier options. Plus, rising costs for meat and labor haven't made it any easier for the chain to keep those big steak portions affordable. Outback tried to shake things up by rolling out new menu items and improving its delivery services, but it looks like some locations just couldn't keep up with the times. It's a bummer for fans who love sitting down with a hearty steak and a side of Aussie cheese fries. Still, the company insists this is more of a smart pruning move than a full retreat. The Outback Boomerang just won't be coming back to some neighborhoods anytime soon. 12. Friendly's. The classic spot known for its ice cream sundaes and cozy family meals is also saying goodbye to more locations in 2025. This chain once ruled the hearts of families looking for a sweet treat after Little League games or a casual weekend dinner. But as sit-down dining has taken a hit, and fast casual and delivery options have boomed, Friendly's has struggled to keep its foothold. The charm of Friendly's, its nostalgic vibe, friendly servers, and famous ice cream, hasn't been enough to stop the slow fade. At its peak, Friendly's was almost everywhere in the Northeast, and its ice cream was a big deal. Not just a dessert, but a destination. Its unique Fribble milkshakes and signature sundaes made it a go-to spot for decades. However, changing dining habits, rising operating costs, and fierce competition from newer, trendier eateries hit Friendly's hard. The brand tried to innovate by adding more modern menu items and revamping interiors, but it seems the era of Friendly's family dinners is slowly winding down. There's also something bittersweet about Friendly's struggles because it's more than just a restaurant chain, it's a piece of childhood for many. The empty parking lots and closed signs feel like the end of a cozy tradition. For some, the closures mark a chapter of simpler times, where the joy of a scoop of ice cream was a reason to smile. Now, fans are left wondering where to get their Friendly's fix as the chain focuses on fewer, more profitable locations. 13. Quiznos. Quiznos was once the big competitor to Subway, famous for its toasted subs with that golden, crispy edge that no one else could quite match. But in 2025, the chain continues to struggle and close more spots. What happened? Well, Quiznos fell victim to a mix of expensive franchise fees and fierce competition, not just from Subway, but also from a slew of new fast casual sandwich places that popped up offering fresher, more customizable options. Quiznos' fancy toasted subs, while delicious, couldn't keep customers coming back in the numbers they needed. At its peak, Quiznos had thousands of locations worldwide. The chain's toasted subs were a big hit because they offered something different, those warm, crunchy edges and a variety of sauces. But behind the scenes, franchise owners started complaining about the high fees and shrinking profits. Many locations just couldn't stay open, especially as newer players in the sandwich game began dominating. Quiznos tried to rebrand itself and simplify its menu, but those efforts didn't turn the tide. The chain still has loyal fans who remember the glory days of Quiznos subs and hope for a comeback. But the reality is that fewer and fewer Quiznos restaurants are open to serve up those signature toasted bites. It's a little sad for those who grew up grabbing a quick, crunchy sub after school or work, but the chain just hasn't been able to keep pace with changing tastes and business pressures. 14. Bojangles. Bojangles, that southern favorite famous for its crispy fried chicken and flaky buttermilk biscuits, is facing a tough 2025 with closures hitting some markets hard. While Bojangles has a fierce and loyal following in the South, where people swear by their Cajun spices and sweet tea, it hasn't quite cracked the code to win over customers nationwide. The brand's expansion efforts outside its core region have been patchy, and rising food and labor costs have also squeezed profits. One big challenge for Bojangles has been growing competition. Other fast food and fast casual chains offering fried chicken or biscuits have popped up everywhere, often with fresher or cheaper alternatives. Plus, higher prices for chicken and other ingredients make it tricky for Bojangles to keep its southern comfort food affordable. This means fans outside the South might have to take longer drives just to get their fix of those spicy Cajun fries or flaky biscuits. Despite these challenges, Bojangles remains a beloved spot where it's still open, with many loyal customers holding on to their favorite dishes. The closures are frustrating for those who grew up loving Bojangles as part of their Sunday dinners or road trips, but it shows that even regional favorites aren't guaranteed smooth sailing in the crowded fast food world. 15. Golden Corral. The king of all-you-can-eat buffets is facing major hurdles in 2025 as it shuts down many locations. Buffets were once the ultimate dining experience for people who wanted variety, quantity, and a fun way to eat with family and friends. Golden Corral's massive salad bars, endless dinner options, and dessert spreads were a staple for many. But recent years have not been kind to the buffet model. The pandemic kicked the buffet industry in the gut, and it's been a long climb back. People's preferences have shifted. Fewer want to stand in lines grabbing food with shared utensils or worry about cleanliness. Add to that rising food costs and labor shortages, and buffets are struggling to survive. Golden Corral tried to update its menus and improve food quality, but those efforts couldn't fully stop the slide. The massive buffet tables that once drew crowds now sit empty in many places. Golden Corral closures mean sad news for fans who love digging into endless mashed potatoes, carving stations, and pies. The buffet style, which offered a little bit of everything and a whole lot of nostalgia, is quickly becoming a rare experience. For those who grew up with weekend trips to Golden Corral, it's a sign that the dining landscape is moving away from the all-you-can-eat concept. If you made it this far, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on updates like this.